Good afternoon. Welcome to the Center for Distance Education Instructional Design Dine for Fall 2022. We're glad you're with us this afternoon and we are looking forward to a wonderful event. Today we have various instructional designers from community colleges throughout the state of Mississippi. We know that our students, both face-to-face and online, have had various experiences with Mississippi community colleges, and we want to share the expertise and experiences of instructional designers at the community college level to help enhance what we're doing at Mississippi State University. So let's meet our panelists. First, we have Ms. Shalon Farris, who is an e-learning systems administrator at Holmes Community College. Ms. Farris previously worked on the Mississippi Community College Board and was an instructional designer for Instructure, the company that owns Canvas. Next, we have Dr. Christa Whilhite, who is an instructional design specialist for the Mississippi Community College Board. She also serves as a technology liaison for the Mississippi Virtual Community College. Finally, we have Dr. Carlena Benjamin, who is the Instructional Technology Specialist and Instructor of Biology at Northeast Mississippi Community College. She is the recipient of the Virtual Instructor of the Year Award from the Mississippi Virtual Community College. We are very grateful to have them with us today. To begin our panel, we will start with Ms. Farris with the following question. What tip or advice would you give faculty when developing a new course or course content?
You've at least got their attention for a little while, right? You can pass out the syllabus. You can let them know the expectations. Well, with an online class, depending on how you have it set up, you can't force them to go click on that syllabus. You can't force them to go click on that schedule. But there are things you can do. You have to think about those things in mind. So with that in mind, when you get ready to design it, it's thinking about what are those things that I need my students to know on the first day? How can I get them to look at it? So that's the big thing, is looking at those things, knowing those differences. And then once you've got that mindset, you can go into designing your course on paper. I always start on paper. One of the things that we have for our online instructors at Holmes Community College is we give them this outline. It's an outline so they can map out their modules. They can map out the assignments, the content, their modules, their due dates, and everything. Keep in mind that while you're doing that, you also want to map out what you want as their first module. Before you even get to the content, think about the important things that you would pass out on the first day. Syllabus, assignment schedule, how to get your policies, lay out the expectations from the beginning. And that's one of the things that we do is we require an important course information module before students ever get into the content. They have to know the expectations. So before they even get to the first lecture video, the first anything, they know what to expect. They know, okay, this is what's coming. These are my due dates. This is what this teacher expects. And this is what I need to be prepared for. So then I would say after you've mapped it out on paper, then you can go into designing, the fun part, right? I would always start by getting your first module the way you want it. Get the layout the way you want it. I love including sort of an introduction page in the beginning of all my modules and then like a wrap up and in conclusion. That way you're sort of introducing things, bookending it, and students get used to that. With that too, it's just important for students to know the flow of the course and to know how that course is going to go. Consistency is so important in online course. And the good news is once you get that first module done, with Canvas, the benefit of this is as long as there's not a quiz in there, you can duplicate that module. You don't have to like make Canvas work for you. So that's just some of the main points I would say.
One thing I was going to chime in is you don't have to be rigid when you map it out. I know a lot of our tendency is we're going to plan everything out and that's what we're going to stick with and we can't deviate from that. But just like where you would walk into a classroom face to face and be like, they are not getting this, they are not feeling it, I've got to change tactics. You can do that in the online environment also. If you go through your first couple weeks of modules and it's just not flowing, they're not doing as well, you can go back in with what you had mapped out and you can rethink that. So don't ever feel like you're locked in as you're designing. Design can evolve during the semester, the following semester. It's just an ongoing process.
And to piggyback on top of that, teaching online should be an evolving process. If it's not, then that's a problem, because instructors should always be looking for ways to refine the content, to update the content, to make sure they're allowing time for those interactions. And just like a face-to-face class, if something doesn't work, that's okay. Next semester, change it up. Don't do it anymore, or add something else to it, whatever works for you. I think one of the misconceptions out there is that online teaching is easy. It's not. It's very difficult. It's very time consuming. And if it's not, then it should be. It should be time consuming, because you shouldn't be teaching from the same shell you've taught with back in 2000, or whenever the very first shell was made. So if you're not constantly evolving and learning new ways and making Canvas work for you, there's lots of innovative ideas out there. And instructors should always be kind of looking for ways to always update and evolve that class and make it better from one semester to the next. Something else I want to add to that too is, don't forget to consider accessibility from the beginning, because it's very tough if you create a course and then you have to go back and update, make changes to match or to meet accessibility requirements. Things like adding headers in your notes or your presentations, or adding alt text for any images that are there. If you'll do that in the beginning when you're building the course, it's a lot better than if a peer reviewer or your course gets checked and they're like, no, this doesn't meet requirements. We need to go back and refine that. Then you have to go back to each thing again. So kind of try to be forward thinking if it is a brand new class that you're teaching, or maybe one that's being offered for the very first time virtually. Be thinking about some of these little things that matter to students. They need that.
Those are great answers. Thank you guys so much. So we're going to start with Dr. Benjamin this time. What are some difficulties in presenting, particularly in the sciences online, and how do you overcome those?
So I have a biology background. I actually teach anatomy and physiology in addition to being instructional technologist at Northeast. And a very major obstacle is that hands-on experience that students get in lab. And personal opinion here, you can't mimic that. Now you can try, and there are lots of great tools out there that will get you close to that. And that's kind of what we have to strive for, is just try to get as close as you can to that hands-on experience that students get. So a couple of things to consider is interactivity, adding activities, learning assignments that get students involved and allow them the opportunity to dig into the content. Things like a thing link. If you've ever used thing link before, you can put an image, a video, any media, and then add links, and students have to click that link and then interact with that. So that's kind of a interactivity, something rather than a student looking at a static report that you're giving them, or terms and things like that. So getting them active, even if it's just clicking or tapping, they're at least involved and active in that. There's also great kits out there for virtual classes. I know our chemistry instructor uses kits. Our anatomy instructors, we're in conversation of moving to kits, where students purchase kits. It gets shipped to their home. They can actually dissect their pig there. They can get a little mini microscope with some slides and get a little bit of that interactivity that's there as well. And there's several platforms out there that are very interactive with sharing content and having students complete work through it. One that I personally use is Seesaw. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. And it's kind of funny. Seesaw is actually a elementary learning tool. It is designed for pre-K up to 5th grade, and there's handfuls that use it in secondary ed, and then there's even smaller handfuls like me that use it in higher ed. And it's compatible with all devices, whether students are running a MacBook or a Windows device or any type of tablet. It works in all platforms, which some publisher materials do not. So this works in all those platforms. And you can share media, and students physically can label, they can add their voice, they can add a video, and it's all working in one platform, and it integrates with Canvas as well. So that's a great tool to kind of get that personalization. One thing that I always advocate for is I want students to know who their teacher is. It's great to learn from other resources like Khan Academy or some YouTube video that's out there, but I want my students to know that I am their teacher. So I do most all of my content. Even if I see a great video, I may mimic that video somehow, but my face is what's on there. I'm the one teaching and communicating with those students, not someone else. And I have students on campus go, "Oh, you were my AMP teacher." I'm like, "Who are you?" Because they were virtual and I never really knew them, but they knew me because I was in that course constantly when they did their work. So as interactive as you can make that, your learning activities, the resources that are there, having some kits that you can send home, depending upon what your content area is, if that fits for you, is a great way to overcome that lack of hands-on activity that's there. And you just do the best you can do.
I think part of the fun today is going to be like, are you going to talk next? Are you going to talk next? But one thing I kind of wanted to add to what Dr. Benjamin said is because she was talking about doing her own videos and having ThingLink. Any subject you can use, you can work with diverse learning styles, but I really think that it can really key in with the sciences and a lot of the resources that are available, because not all students are going to learn by reading. Not all students are going to learn by hearing something. Some are going to be more kinesthetic and everything like that. And the more that you can try to integrate into a course, regardless of your subject matter, to give them different touch points for engagement, the more they're going to retain and the more they're going to be able to dig in.
Anything you want to add?
I think they covered it great. We've experienced this very similar issues with the sciences with it's the lab part. But the great news is I've seen publisher content, just like online learning is constantly evolving. Publisher content is always evolving. The tools that they create are always evolving. So what we don't have today, we might have tomorrow. So I would just keep that in mind too as you're working on your content.
Great. All right. Our next question is Dr. Whilhite. What are some pitfalls you watch out for when it comes to developing an online course and course content?
When I first heard that this was going to be one of the questions, my mind automatically went to don't do too much. We were talking before everything got started. One of my interactions that kind of guides my instructional design philosophy actually happened in a proctoring lab at one of the community colleges. And we were trying to explain to a student what she needed to know to take her exam. And she literally went, "I don't need the extra." And I was aggravated in that moment. But every time I'm designing a content page, that sticks into my head, because not all of them are going to want and need the extra. What do they need to know to meet your learning outcomes and to be successful on the assessment? They may not need all the background information. They may not want to deep dive into the topic. But that is a big pitfall, is where you're just like, well, I think I need to give them this, and I think I need to give them that, especially in an online environment, because when you're face to face, you are limited by that class window that you have to speak to them. But when you're designing something online, you could end up giving them 4 hours of reading for one particular topic and not even realize it, because you think they need all of that, but they don't need the extra at that point. So that's a big pitfall that you can easily fall into with that. And then also for me, it's kind of piggybacking off of the course mapping and thinking what you want. Sometimes you instinctively want to do too much, not give them too much, but you're trying to add too much to your online course. Whittle it down to exactly what you need to assess learning, versus, well, I think I need a discussion board and a peer review, and we better give them a knowledge check quiz, but there's also got to be a mastery assessment. Like, just whittle it down, because you just need to know where they're at, and they need to know, without getting overwhelmed with work, what they need to do. So those are two of my big pitfalls that you have to think through.
Yeah, I would piggyback off what you were saying. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Something else to think about too is not giving carrots or incentives. We'll put it that way. Incentives for doing your work. I know when I was a student, and I'll just confess, I was going to do what I was given credit for, what I was required to do. So it's just like what you were saying, having busy work, if it doesn't have any sort of incentive behind it, and it can be anything. If you give them 5 points, I've been surprised at how students will jump over anything, but they're not going to jump and do work if they don't have something that they're going to get out of it. But definitely like reducing busy work and thinking about the different learning styles. Also, I would look at this too as look at the benefit of an online class. You do not have to sit there and record an hour-long lecture video. Your students can push pause. They can go back. You're not having to sit there. It's not like you're answering questions throughout the course. You're not having to repeat yourself. You can focus on delivering the content and keeping your lecture videos in short segments. I would recommend like 5 to 7 minute long videos. And then what you've got is you've got your content segmented out, and students can skip around and rewind and go back and rewatch the concepts that they really need to watch versus having to weed through an hour-long lecture video. That is definitely one of the pros that I love of online learning. And it's just a different way to think about how to deliver the content.
I have to echo that. Y'all have the too long didn't read generation in your classes right now. And just remember that when you're building stuff out or making videos or giving them handouts, too long didn't read, chunk everything, tiny little consumable pieces.
Exactly. And one other pitfall is thinking creating an online course is a one and done thing. It is not. It is an evolving course, like we mentioned at the beginning. And a lot of instructors that are not comfortable or familiar, I should say, with online teaching in the beginning may think, oh, I've got my class, I'm done. Here we go. Every year from now then on. And it should not be that way. It should always be changing. Let's make those a little shorter. You made that video last semester 20 minutes. Well, let's go back and watch that again. You know what? I might could take this and this and this out. Or I said that 3 times in there because you're conditioned to say it 3 times in a face-to-face class. But in the online class, you don't necessarily have to say that 3 times. So now let's revise that 20-minute class or that 20-minute video that you've created, and let's get it down to 10 minutes or get a 10-minute down to 5 minutes or whatever the case may be. So always looking on ways to improve your instruction.
And just to piggyback off of that too, because that made me think of one other thing. What's awesome now is with these videos, you've got the data. You can see what parts that the student looked at for over and over and over again. So then, like you said, the next semester, you know to go over that in more detail. That's the part that I love about online learning is that it's always evolving. I hope my class never stays the same. There's always something to learn from your students. There's always something to learn from other people. I love getting feedback from everybody because it's what makes the course grow each time.
I'm so glad that she talked about analytics because that's what I was about to jump on next. But it's also like in one of my presentations that I do, I talk about frequently asked questions. If you keep getting a lot of emails asking the same thing for clarification, you know your next trouble point that you need to work back and revise. So it's not just the video analytics or the Canvas analytics on the content pages. It's if you're getting emails, you know that something was not clear, and it gives you the opportunity to look at that.
You can also throw a survey in there yourself. I know eLearning usually pushes out surveys, course surveys. I give my own survey. It's simply 3 questions. What did you like about the class? What did you not like about the class? And if you could do the class again or recommend to a student, what would you like to change? How should it change to be better? Every semester, I have those 3 questions at the end of the class. Those are just my personal questions in there. Occasionally, if I'm trying something new, I'll ask a pointed question about that. This was the first time we used OER in this class. How did you feel about this OER? Accessing the book, downloading the book, were you able to do this? So there are sprinkles occasionally where I try to get pointed feedback on certain things that I have done in the class, but that's amazing feedback that I get that's specifically related to my class and my instruction. Now, I'm not discounting the course survey that's, blanketed to all online classes. That's great as well, but I have the ability to ask specific questions and get that feedback, and it's great, and it helps advise me for the next semester and things I should keep, things that maybe I should consider revising, or something I should scrap.
great answers there. So I know a lot of times when we're thinking about teaching, we're thinking about what we need the students to get, not necessarily thinking about what students are expecting from us. So Dr. Benjamin, the next question is going to be, what are students hoping for in a well-designed course?
We've mentioned a lot of things already, but what jumps to mind first is clear and concise instructions. Like Dr. Whilhite mentioned, you don't necessarily want a page when you can describe something in a paragraph. You're going to lose them in that. So you want that brevity that's in there, but you also need to be clear. We come into teaching a class with context. We know what we're trying to say. We know what the class is about, and students do not. They're coming in as a blank slate. So things that we assume they know, they likely do not know. So I think a good practice, especially if this is your first time teaching a virtual class, or maybe you're redesigning a class for the first time, is having a peer look at it. Have someone from your eLearning office say, would you take a look at these modules? Can you follow this? Does this make sense? You can kind of see, start here, then move here and there and so on. And having those eyes on it, a peer review, look at it and get that feedback. So clear and concise instructions. Second thing that I think about that I believe Shayla mentioned is a routine. Be consistent in those modules. Once the students work through the first module, copy that second module, edit your content so that it matches your learning objectives, and then work from there. And each module, the students get in a routine, just like we do as adults, right? And then you're comfortable, you're familiar with that. And there's going to be fewer questions down the road because they know those expectations right at the very front. Something else in a well-designed course, I am a firm believer in personalized feedback. Even if you copy and paste the same response 15 times, give them that feedback, because that makes them feel special. You are looking at their work. You noticed that quiz. You noticed that response on that discussion board. They're not just randomly getting grades in each week or automatic grades in each week. And they're like, do I even have a teacher for this class? So anytime that you can provide personalized feedback, I know it's tough in large classes. I have had large classes, and that's where this is not easy teaching a virtual class. It's work, it's time. There were many Sunday nights I'm sitting in my bed with my laptop doing my feedback for my virtual classes in there. So it's definitely a commitment on the instructor side to try to, you don't have to do it for every assignment, but little nuggets here and there, these little chicken nuggets here and there, students love that. And they know that you're their instructor, and they know that you care, that they're actually doing their work that's in there. And take advantage of some of these tools that Canvas has in the grade book. Message students who haven't done in the grade book, they haven't submitted their assignment yet. Send them a reminder. I do that and I get feedback. Thank you so much. I forgot about that. Or, oh, I thought I did that already. Let me get in there and do that. Students really appreciate that. So as much feedback as you can give, and try to keep communication open as much as possible is a great thing.
I would also say a simple and intuitive course design, and really simplifying your navigation. If you're not using it, hide it. The less students have to weed through, the better. You really want to direct them to where they need to go. My little boy has taught me a lot. I've learned that when things, an app, anything like that is designed well, they can pick it up and he can click on it and know exactly where to go. Same with your course. You want it so intuitive that students don't question where to go, because really when they get in your course, you don't want there to be any frustration with navigation. You want them to be focusing their attention and their time on the content that you have worked so hard to provide. So the more you can do up front with simplifying your navigation, with creating a very intuitive design and layout, you're going to reduce questions that you get from your students. It's going to reduce frustration. And in the end, it's going to help you out. I know for me, it has saved me time because of all the questions that got reduced. And I know we've all talked up here about the work that goes into an online course. I do want to encourage y'all to say that even though designing an online course is a lot of work and it takes a lot of time, the benefits that you reap by getting all that done up front, oh man, like it is just amazing, because once you do that, you've got a course that you can use over and over again. Not that you won't make tweaks, but you've got this well-designed course, and now your time is no longer invested into or to that extent on the design part. You're getting to focus on what Dr. Benjamin was just talking about, these interactions, this communication, building the relationships that your students so need and want.
Oh, now I'm sitting here trying to remember. I have two things I want to say now instead of one, but kind of also the why behind the what we're telling you to do with the simplifying and the repetition of the design is you've got to think some people can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Cognitively, you can only attend to maybe 2 to 5 things depending on your own personal ability. Some of us are better than others. So by having that repetitive design where students feel comfortable at home, they can focus on that content. They can focus on those engagements instead of having to go, wait, where am I supposed to go? Which is also kind of how making sure things are similar. Like, I don't know if MSU templates or has like a homepage or anything like that, but having just an overall look where you just kind of intuitively know where to go, regardless of what class, all of that helps. And then the other thing that I was thinking about that just literally left my head, but it was something that Shalon said. For me, it's one of those things that with the simplification process, you can get so much more done, but also in terms of just building out a great course, consider doing it for your face-to-face as well. Because as we proved in the past couple years, sometimes you've suddenly got to go online, and already having all of that ready, even if it's just your assignments, like do all of your assignments digital. Do things like that. Then you can add in the other stuff. So having all of that thought out, planned out can help, whether you have a personal situation or there's a global situation.
Right, great. So our next question, we've talked about a couple tools already, a couple different things. So Dr. Whilhite, are there any tools that you use or could recommend to the group that assist you in course design and development?
I actually do have a few, but to start off with, when I initially start designing and developing a course, I go for free. Everybody likes free. Working with community college faculty, some colleges have all kinds of extra bells and whistles that they've purchased for their instructors. Some do not. Some instructors are willing to purchase their own bells and whistles. Some are just going to work with what they have. So I always start off with anything that's OER and Canvas Commons. Just look and see what's out there. Because even if I'm like, oh, no, I don't want that, I still might get an idea from something. But in addition to that, I do like course mapping tools, whether they're homegrown or you're doing something that's more of a mind map and you're kind of just manipulating that to work for that. And there are some of those that you can find online that are free. But then just going beyond that, for videos, Canvas has Studio, but then there's also Screencast-O-Matic and things like that that you can use. And I actually really like micro-learning, since we've talked about chunking, and there's 7Taps and Genially are two tools that I think are really great to do like little bits of micro-learning that have that engagement. Genially is a lot like ThingLink. It's almost like a presentation, but then it's got interactive points to where they can deep dive into that. So that's just a couple things that I like to look at and use and go from there that either are free or don't cost a whole lot. GENIALLY. Almost like Miss Congeniality, but not quite.
Anyone else want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I love all those tools you just mentioned. A few others that are my favorites are things like Canva and Google Draw. Those are things where you can create banners and buttons. And then like Dr. Whilhite mentioned, all the free stuff. I love sites like Pixabay and Unsplash where you can go get stock photos.
Flat Icon.
Yes, all those. There's lots of different things out there. Even like video editing software like Camtasia, there is a fee with that, but I Google stuff all the time. So if you just go Google free editing, video editing software, there's a list out there, and there's YouTube videos that'll explain how to use all those. And just it's not like you have to be an expert at any of these things. Just doing something simple. Let's just say that you're creating a video and you need something to really stand out. You get one of those video editing softwares and just circle something. That's one thing. That's one extra thing that your video has now that it didn't have before.
There's a YouTube for everything. Like, I mean, I'm not even joking. If you like, I don't know how to use Canva, there's a YouTube for that. So you can always learn any tool.
All the same, they mentioned one that I use a lot also is Adobe Express, very similar to Canva with that as well. And we're a Mac school, so all of our students have iPads. So the Apple Productivity Suite we use heavily in our classes to create content. So Keynote, Pages, Numbers, iMovie, Apple Clips, those are all used a lot in creating content.
All right. So one of the questions we probably get the most, I think our instructional designers would agree, is how do I engage more of my students? And we hear it all the time, like we need more help figuring out how to get them to talk with us. So our next question, Ms. Harris is first. What are some of your strategies for fostering interaction in an online course?
That's a great question, and we hear that question a lot too in the community colleges. I would say for one of the strategies that we have is we use discussions, but the first thing we do is we always have an icebreaker introduction discussion. That's in every single course. Since we're not sitting in a face-to-face classroom, we're not getting to talk to our students. So we do have that, and they get a grade for it. So hey, it's an easy grade. It makes students want to do it. And it's just something fun. And there's lots of different ideas out there that you can Google of different fun introduction icebreaker discussion boards. So we do that as one of our first assignments. The next thing that we do is our instructors reply to each one of those individually. Now, when you do that, what I've found is really fun is since you're getting to know your students, you're learning things about them that you can bring up as they message you later on. Maybe you've got a football player in your class and you just learned that about him. Or maybe you've just discovered that you've got a new mom in your class. Well, these are all great things that as you mention these while you're on the phone or sending a message later on, these are things where that student's going to go, oh, they paid attention to me. My instructor knows me. They really care. But setting that tone at the beginning, and that's week one, setting that tone lets your students know that, hey, I'm engaged, I'm present, I see you. I think that is really critical. Now, throughout the course, we continue to have discussions. We may not respond to that extent, but what you can do is you can respond in groups. Like you may have a discussion about a topic. Later on, you don't have to reply to everyone, so don't get overwhelmed with that. But just think about reading those responses and replying in groups. Another thing that we like to do is we use Zoom. Are y'all WebEx? Okay, so any sort of video conferencing tool. You can use that for your virtual office hours if you want to. Some students may attend, some students not, but it's worth a try to put that out there. And we even do that if I get a message from a student who says, I'm having trouble with this topic, we hop on a Zoom call. And it's been a lot of fun with that. One other thing that I would say is there are lots of external tools out there. There's lots of different ones. Some are great, some are not. Some are free, some cost money. One example would be, I think it's H5P. There's a few like that. There's Padlets. It's not like you're limited to just discussion boards. I would just say, keep in mind that if you do use an external tool, they're not all created equally. Some write to the gradebook, some don't. Keep those things in mind, but also be encouraged that you can create an interactive and an engaging course with the native tools within Canvas without having any of that extra stuff. You can be very involved and very present simply by being there, simply by responding to discussions, by using the gradebook feature of message students to. I love that feature. Students don't know that you're messaging them in groups, but it looks like you are. And so there you're already encouraging that interaction. And you can do other things like group work. I will shout out Mississippi State right here. I had a professor like 10 years ago whenever I was in grad school. And this was back in the Blackboard day. So see, y'all are ahead of the game. Y'all have engaging tools that you can use. So this is before you really had, it wasn't as interactive, I'll put it that way. That instructor took the time one night to meet with me and my group of students, me and a few other students on a group project. It wasn't to lecture us. It wasn't to sit there and say, what are y'all doing wrong? It was simply to say, where are y'all at in this project and let's talk about it, and to point us in a direction. Now, at the time, you can probably tell that had an impact on me. To this day, it's something I think about, and it's made me realize, wow, you can make a student feel like they are seen and they are heard without any fancy tools. So anyways, I just want to say that to encourage you that you don't need a lot. There are lots of tools that are out there, but you can do what you do. You can make it interactive with what you have.
Face-to-face meetings virtually is a great thing to integrate, even though it's maybe an online class, asynchronous. Offering opportunities to hop on a WebEx or a Zoom can really go a long way. I always hope we're Zoom as well. We're moving to Teams. Going to have to learn that one, but I would hold a Zoom within the first 3 days of the class to verbally go over the syllabus and talk about expectations of the class. Not everybody came. That's okay. I had 5 or 6 show up maybe in a class of, I don't know, 25. So very low attendance, but hey, I did it. And those 5 and 6 came and appreciated that. Then I started holding review sessions with each unit. In anatomy and physiology, we have 6 units. So at the end of unit 1, I would hold a Zoom for a review session, and then unit 2, and then so on. And some students could come, some students couldn't. I recorded it. I made that recording available, and it seemed to work really well throughout the class. So even though it's an asynchronous class, doesn't mean you can't offer opportunities for synchronous. I never punished students that didn't come. I never took attendance when we were there. It was something, hey, I'm here. If you need me, here's the time I'm going to be on. Several students would message me and say, I can't be on at that time. I've got this, that, and the other. That's okay. I'll post the recording. You can watch it there. So just because it's asynchronous doesn't mean you're limited in that you can't offer some opportunities for that. Students really appreciate that as well. And other things for interactivity, we mentioned a lot of just interactive clicks and drag and drops and any gamification opportunities, little games that students can play, rack up points, even things like Quizlet. Even my children are in middle school and high school, and my high schooler not so much anymore, but my middle schooler, they still do Quizlets and things with that, little Kahoots and opportunities. I think college students, some like that as well, and they want to see how many points they're going to get for that. So even if you're not taking it for a grade, having that opportunity there will hit those students that do like it and have that for them.
So echoing the introductory discussion board, I can tell you one of my favorite experiences with a student came from just having what do you do? What are you into? That typical introductory discussion board where I was replying back. And I learned that one of my students, she posted about riding horses. And I'm like, well, hey, guess what? I college rodeoed back in the day. And I had a horse, and that's cool that you do that, and good luck. Well, the next thing I knew, I'm getting emails. Well, here's my horses, here's their names. I do this. And I'm like, well, okay, cool. And I'm like, and here's my retired horse. She's 23 this year. And we just chit chatted for a few moments. And I didn't really hear anything back until like a couple times during the semester. She'd ask questions about assignments or a grade that she got, and we'd work it out. And at the very end, one of her feedbacks that she gave me was that she was so glad that I took time to swap horse pictures and stories with her, because it made her feel like she could ask me questions about my grading where she would have been intimidated to ask before. So it's a good thing. It's worth your time to reply to each of those introductory discussions. And talking about other engagement points, a lot of the questions that I hear is I'm giving my students feedback online, and like, I don't even think they go look at it. That individualized feedback that we talked about earlier is so important. Taking just a couple seconds to be like, hey, here's where you can find your feedback in the grade book in case you want to ask questions, and having that interaction with them to establish that communication channel is there. And that also kind of meets some RSI standards. I don't know if that's a hot topic around here. That's regular and substantive interaction. So that ties into something with accreditation and everything. So having that direct instructional feedback and that conversation with those students at an individual level is beneficial to them, but sometimes they just don't know where to go find it. They see that grade pop up. That's it. Just pointing them in that direction so they can interact with your feedback is a good communication strategy.
One more thing to that made me think. So with the introduction, I do very similar, but my students do digital posters where they put their picture in there and they have to, what's your major or program of study? What's your goals for this? A little bit about them. And I'll always try to comment, I've got a dog too, or oh, I've got a cat as well. Oh, you've got a Great Dane, I've got one too. And something very similar, we started swapping pictures. Oh, here's a picture of my Great Dane. Here's your Great Dane. And then later in the semester, like, how's Jupiter? I'm like, what? Jupiter's my Great Dane. You remember that from like months ago. Okay, yeah, she's doing great. How's your dog? How's that going? So these little connections that may not even be related to the class, those connections go a long way with your students there. And with the interactivity and talking about students not looking at comments, we've got something among us at Northeast. We'll walk by each other, keep fighting the good fight is what we say when we see each other. We'll hold a workshop. The Instructional Technology Office hosts Tech Tuesdays every other Tuesday, where we try to help students get acclimated with using their iPads and tips and tricks and workflows on those devices. Sometimes we'll have a full crowd. Sometimes there's 2 students there. So we see each other. How'd your workshop go today? I'm like, I only had 2 students. I'll keep fighting the good fight. I'm like, that's okay. Just don't not do it just because you think they're not looking. Maybe one day they'll look, and there may be 1 or 2 that are looking, and you're getting to those. So don't give, it can be very discouraging, right? We all talk amongst ourselves, probably not supposed to. But we talk amongst ourselves and we go and we vent. Oh, I've done this and I've done that and it's here and I've got it in 3 places. And they're asking me, what is a proctored exam? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, or they're emailing you the night before and they're saying, I need the code for my proctored exam. No, that's not quite how it works. So just keep fighting the good fight and keep that information in there and do the best you can do to make it better each time. Don't give up. That's my motivational moment there.
That's great. I think we got time for one more question fairly quickly, but and so it's kind of a big one. So how do you see online learning evolving in the future? What do you see coming down the pipeline? Anyone can take that one.
I feel brave being the first one to pick up the microphone. I don't think it's going anywhere. Looking at some surveys, a lot of students prefer the online modality. But what I really see when it comes to instruction that occurs online is more, and I know we all got so tired over the past couple of years of the word resilience, of a resilient kind of design and instruction, something that can go hybrid, that can go fully online, that can transition to face-to-face. That's kind of the direction that I see online going in general. Is it becoming this super flexible thing that exists and it's just integrated into campus? Like, I don't see where it's going to be a silo of this is traditional instruction and this is a flex course. I think it's all those lines are going to continue getting blurred and it's all going to become one thing that's just kind of defined like by nuances. That's kind of where I see it going.
Same. I think it's going to continue to grow, increase, expand, and the meeting students where they are, as aggravating as it might be, if someone takes a vacation in the middle of your summer school class and it's just, why did you don't sign up for it if you're not going to be able to do your work that week. But it is what it is. It's another saying that people probably hate. Now, pivot, it is what it is and all that, but it just is. So being flexible and making those accommodations, I think that's an adjustment that instructors just have to live with and just have to move forward with, as much as it may pain us and aggravate us as well. And I'm saying us because I'm one of those that gets frustrated with students, but meeting them where they are, because it's not going anywhere, and virtual learning is what they need. So you need to meet that need as their instructor, whatever that may look like. Something else, probably more 20 years from now rather than next year or 2, but the metaverse and a lot of the virtual learning and capabilities that are coming out with AR, VR, XR. I think that will definitely be seen in virtual classes. It will be again, a long time from now, because currently you have to have certain equipment. Online students are not going to have that equipment, but down the road, I feel like there will be modifications where you may not need any equipment and it can run directly on specific devices that's there. So that's something to think about maybe 10, 20 years from now. We're all going to be like little avatars standing in front of our students teaching.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The technology is going to keep growing. And what's fun to watch is to see students today, or let's not even talk about college students right now. Let's look at the generation that you'll be teaching in 10 years. Those students are already so familiar with technology. That's what they expect. I didn't know how to use a cell phone when I was 5, but I know so many 5-year-olds that do. So it's like y'all are saying, it's meeting those students where they are. It's knowing that the technology is going to grow and just trying to keep up with that and staying on top of these changes and knowing that, yes, that is what our students are coming to this. It's exciting that they're that smart. And if they can do that, they're like, there's no stopping them. And it's that just excites me to see where it's going.
I have to add to that because what they're using now is preparing them for the future. Because I'm sitting up here now talking to y'all about using the learning management system and all of these technology tools and everything. And when I was 18 years old and I sat in freshman orientation at the University of West Alabama, my teacher had to show me how to make an email and attach something to it. I had no idea. And now that is my world that I live in. So you don't know what they're going to learn from something that they used in your class that's going to prepare them for the future. Because I can guarantee you that teacher would have never been like this girl from small town Mississippi that didn't even have internet at her house and didn't know how to send an email is now like doing instructional technology for a living. It's amazing like how the circle can go around.
I have 2 children. My youngest is in 8th grade. My oldest is a sophomore. They've never had a textbook, ever. It's all digital since they started in kindergarten. It's all digital media. No physical book have they ever brought home.
Something to think about. Do y'all have any closing statements you want to say? That's okay if you don't. Any questions? They'll definitely be here if y'all want to come by and ask them some questions when we wrap up. I just want to say thank you for answering our questions for us. Definitely thank you for coming. Keep a lookout. We're going to send out a survey, just get some feedback on things you guys might be looking for in the future, because we really want to be able to help y'all learn more about this area. A couple of things that they talked about, I kind of was jotting a few notes. If you've got questions about things like templates, accessibility, some of the software tools that they mentioned, ThingLink, Genly, we work with all of those. And so if you have questions, the people I introduced at the beginning, see them, myself and those folks, because we work in all of those areas, and we're happy to help you with those, help your departments, help your courses. And we really thank you guys for coming today. And please let us know if you have any questions. So thanks so much. Okay.